So I wasn't expecting much from this Michigan race, and surprise, it was actually pretty good. Yo, what's up everyone, my name is Chuck from NASCAR on MDK. Welcome back to the episode of the Inside the Lines post-race show. Kevin Harvick just won the 2019 Consumers Energy 400 from the Michigan National Speedway. And yeah, it was good. It wasn't great, it wasn't amazing, it was good. It had really pit strategy throughout the entire race. We even had a little bit of a fuel mileage at near the end of this event. You know, we're just going to go over it. Some playoff contenders, actually I should say contenders, but a couple of drivers fighting into the playoffs stumbled onto troubles of their own throughout the entire race. And yeah, it wasn't action-packed, but it was a good Michigan race to say the least. So let's start out with what happened at the start of the race. Around 5 or 6 laps into it, Jimmie Johnson running in 10th. He entered into Michigan 16th, tied with Newman in the playoff spot. Like I said, 10 laps into it, racing Clint Boyd for the 9th spot, I believe, drove it a bit too hard in turns 1 and 2, and smacked the outside wall hard enough to cut a right front tire down. And he spent a lot of time in the pits, and by the time he finished, he came out 2 laps down, but then he had to make more adjustments, more repairs to the car, and he would ultimately be 8 to 7 laps down throughout the entire race. So really not what Jimmie Johnson needed, but there would be a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel as what would happen to the drivers that he is racing later on in this race. Now right away, we knew that the contenders with this race, at least we thought at the beginning of this race, would be the 19 and the 11. Mark Truex Jr., he had to start in the back of the pack due to, I believe, making adjustments. No, he failed pre or post qualifying inspection, I believe it was, so he had to start at the back end of the field. Drove all the way up past 20 or some cars halfway through stage 1. Denny Hamlin, I believe, started around the top 10, was also making rounds, passing cars, trying to get to the front as well, with Brad Keselowski leading. And we all thought, okay, it's going to be Hamlin, Truex, and Keselowski. And it would be like that, but not for long. Kevin Harvick, who cut a right front tire down with around 28 laps to go in stage 1, he had to come onto pit road, and ultimately he would lose some stage points. Even though he was in contention to be a regular season champion, still, this is valuable points for him. Luckily, he cut the right front tire down on the back straightaway and not in a turn. So luckily for him, he will ultimately rebound very nicely later on. The 11th car of Denny Hamlin would, like I said, earlier on, he was the fastest car. Him and Truex, they were the fastest cars on the track. He would eventually pass Brad Keselowski for the lead. And then we saw a nice pit call by Cole Pearn. Mark Truex Jr. came onto pit road, and Cole Pearn told the team, pit for fuel only. And this was kind of weird because, I mean, we had, Johnson cut a tire down, and then we had Harvick cut a tire down. So a lot of people thought, okay, this might be a bit risky, but it actually turned out into Truex's favor. Truex actually would be able to get out ahead of Hamlin again, and they even had a little battle for the lead. Hamlin at one point even took the lead back from Truex due to lap traffic. Truex on old tires, because Hamlin pitted for, I believe, 2 tires. Truex was able to get by Hamlin on old tires, pass him, and Truex will go on to win stage 1 with Hamlin around 1 or 2 tenths of a second behind him in second. Stage 2 begins with the 2 car of Brad Keselowski leading, and like I said earlier, it became a 3-man battle for majority of stage 2 between Hamlin, Truex, and Keselowski. Keselowski then starts to fall back a bit, then it starts to become an 11-19 battle for the lead, but then the 19 would eventually get out in front and hold the lead for quite some time. Then pit stops began to take place. The 19 car, Truex, again pits for fuel only, and it looked like, okay, this might turn to his favor again. However, with 5 laps to go, the 2 car of Brad Keselowski, who I believe he was 4th or 5th when he came out to pit road. When he came out, he cut a tire and made a miraculous save. I do not know. Let's take a look here. I have no idea how in the world Keselowski was able to save that car, because there was no tire. He was sliding all over the place, somehow did not hit the outside wall, and somehow positioned his car to a point where when he hit the grass, the splitter wouldn't dig in and tear up the front of the car. It was a incredible save. So yeah, nice job, incredible job by Keselowski to keep that car from getting any damage. But that set it up a restart, a 1-lap shootout. Kyle Busch would eventually win stage 2, but coming off of 4, Eric Almirola would make contact with the 8 car of Daniel Hemrick, and the 3 car of Austin Dillon. They would crash off of 4 heading to start finish line, and that would be the second, I believe, real caution of the day. Yes, it was. Oh, what am I saying? It was the end of stage 2, so yeah, whatever. Third caution overall. The stage 3 is when things started to pick up a bit. Not so much, but in terms of pit strategy wise and fuel mileage, this race actually became a little bit of a fuel mileage race, which in stage racing nowadays is very rare to see. It started out though chaotic. Paul Menard entering turn 3 and 4. It was a 4-wide battle around mid-pack. Menard gets into the 14 Clint Bowyer, sends Bowyer into the wall. Bowyer suffered massive damage, and the reason why this is important is because Bowyer entered into Michigan, I believe, with a 42-point gap, or at least before that accident. You know, with Johnson having troubles and Newman running around mid-pack. Bowyer was inside the top 10. Bowyer having a really good run in terms of points-wise, you know, trying to get away from the 16th spot. He crashes, and he goes to the garage, and he will end up with a 37th place finish. Not what Bowyer needed, because Bowyer, I don't believe Bowyer got any stage points, and if so, it probably only got 4 or 5 from stage 2. That helped Johnson a lot. Johnson then was around 10 to 13 points behind the cut line instead of just 18 points. Not much, but it's better than what it was before. Restart then comes out on lap 142. Joey Logano leads. Nothing big there, or that took place after that. But with 50 laps to go, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., I believe he cut a tire down or something like that, but he brought out the caution. This would be the last caution of the day. Set up another restart. And that's when the 22 car of Logano and Blaney, teammates at Penske, were going at it for the lead. Logano was trying to get that lead away from Blaney. Blaney was surprisingly holding his ground and was really in contention to take the lead away from Logano, which was surprising to me because Blaney just didn't see that speed out of him in order to contend for the lead. He had a top 5 car, I believe, but not really a race leading car. But so it was kind of surprising to see him contend for the lead with Logano, who brought in a very fast car. It's funny, you should point out, Logano, him and his team, they changed the setup entirely to Brad Keselowski's setup. So Logano had no time, no practice on this new setup, and yet he was driving really, really well up front. 37 laps to go, and this is when fuel mileage comes into play, and this is common at Michigan, especially in years past. But Logano was leading, but he had to save fuel. The issue was he was leading, so he couldn't save fuel. Second place, Ryan Blaney, he also had to save fuel. In fact, he was 3 laps short on fuel, so he tried to let off the gas, trying to get that draft off of Logano. It would ultimately would not work in his favor, at least in terms of getting him a win. He would then eventually have to drop back further, I believe around 5th or 6th place in order to save fuel. That allowed the 4 car, Kevin Harvick, who really was quiet all day long, wasn't really a contender, more of a top 5 driver. We saw him around 4th or 5th, but not really a race-winning contender. Came out of nowhere, 2nd place, driving to Joey Logano, because remember, Logano, he had to save fuel, and Harvick would eventually pass Joey Logano with 17 laps to go. Joey Logano would then have to pit with, I believe, 4 or 5 to go. Brad Keselowski also had to pit, giving up his 3rd spot. And yeah, that would eventually seal the fate for those drivers. Hamlin tried to be able to catch up to the 4 car of Harvick, but Hamlin was just too far back, and Kevin Harvick would go on to win his 2nd race of the season. It's kind of weird. The first 20 races or so, Harvick scores 0 wins, and now the past 4 or 5, Harvick has been on a roll, winning 2 of the last 3 or 4 races. Congratulations to him and that Ford team. I mean, I didn't expect Ford to really, I want to say be a contender, but not to dominate like that. I'm also surprised Toyota dominated the way they did, because it didn't show it in practice and qualifying, so I was kind of surprised to see that. Bit disappointed because Chevy, I thought Chevy would bring more to the table, but really only Kurt Busch, surprise, surprise, was the best Chevy, and he wasn't really up front. I think he was at best in 3rd place. That was the highest he was, I believe, and it wasn't there for that long. So now let's take a look at the race results here. Kevin Harvick wins, Denny Hamlin 2nd. Kyle Larson, very, very quiet performance from him, comes home in 3rd. Mark Truex Jr., who really just wasn't able to contend in stage 3, comes home with a 4th place run. Daniel Suarez, very impressive, 5th place finish for him. He really needed that. He jumps up to 16th in points, I believe 10 or 11 points behind the cutoff, or I should say he jumps to 17th in points, 10, 11 points behind the cut line. Kyle Busch in 6th. Ryan Preece, very impressive run for him in 7th. William Byron in 8th. Chase Elliott 9th. Alex Bowman in 10th. So Hendrick, aside from Johnson, Hendrick had a pretty solid day, 8th to 10th place. Ty Dillon, nice run for him in 11th. Ryan Newman, another driver in the bubble spot, great run for him, comes home in 12th. He needed that a lot. Austin Dillon in 13th, Chris Buescher 14th, Paul Menard 15th, Dave Reagan 16th, Joey Logano, who had to come onto pit road with 4 to go, comes home in 17th, Eric Jones 18th, Brad Keselowski 19th, and Matt DiBenedetto in 20th. Some other notables, Rusty Wallace, Kurt Busch 23rd, Ryan Blaney 24th, he had to pit. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 28th. Eric Almirola, who crashed at the end of stage 2, 33rd. Jimmy Johnson 34th, and Clint Boyer 37th. Ryan Newman, he is 16 points above the cut line at 15th. Clint Boyer is 6 points above the cut line, having that final spot. Daniel Suarez 6 points below the cut line, and Jimmy Johnson, I believe, 12 points below the cut line in 17th. So yeah, this is gonna be very interesting. The next race, Bristol Motor Speedway, I'm gonna be at the track, as well as a bunch of other YouTubers, but I'll make a separate video for that one. Tell me, what do you guys think of the Michigan race in the comment section down below. I felt this was a good race. It wasn't a great race, but it was a good race. You know, very surprised because I'm not a fan of Michigan, and especially what happened earlier on in the summer. Was not really looking forward to this Michigan race, but it somewhat delivered. So good job, PJ1, again. But yeah, next weekend is Bristol. I'm super stoked for that, but again, that's next week. For now, congratulations to Kevin Harvick, your winner of the 2019 Michigan race for the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. Again, tell me what you guys think of the race in the comment section down below. Until next time, my name is Chuck Ross from NASCAR on MDK, and I'll see you guys in the next video.